Welcome back to Engineered Baking. This week we are going to look at baking a pound cake with a recipe courtesy of Cooks Illustrated, The Science of Good Cooking. Pound cake is a recipe that gets its name from the original recipe, which involved 4 ingredients, a pound each in quantity: butter, sugar, flour, and eggs. This recipe doesn't use a pound of each of those, but it does use each of those, and it does add a little bit of vanilla extract as well as salt. The first step of this recipe will call to cut 2 sticks of butter into 16 tablespoon sized pieces. If the butter is freshly out of the refrigerator, we will let sit in a mixing bowl for about 20 minutes. This will allow the butter to warm up slightly, allowing it to cream better with the sugar and the salt. While we wait on the butter to warm up, we will take 3 eggs and 3 egg yolks and add them to a measuring cup that has a spout on it, which will allow us to pour the eggs in later. Be careful not to get any eggshells in this mixture. Also, please do not use a plate to capture the empty eggshells and the unused egg whites. It will get a little sloppy. Better yet, use a bowl for the egg whites, as they can be saved later for a nice meringue. After adding some vanilla extract to this mixture, we will whisk together with a fork until well combined. Once the butter has warmed up slightly, we will begin to use our mixer with paddle attachment to mix together butter and about half a teaspoon of salt. Once the salt and butter have creamed together, we will slowly add our 1 3/4 cup sugar in with the mixer on medium speed. After adding in the sugar, we will continue mixing for about 7 minutes. We can use this time to walk around a bit and make sure that we remembered to preheat our oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit or about 163 degrees Celsius, as well as grease our loaf pan into which we will place our batter later. We will stop the mixing process once to scrape the butter, sugar, salt mixture off the sides of the bowl and allow this to finish mixing. After the butter, sugar, and salt are sufficiently mixed together, we will slowly drizzle our egg vanilla mixture into the batter with the mixer on medium speed, taking about 75 seconds in total, being sure to show the mixture to the camera beforehand. Once fully added, we will continue mixing the batter for another 200 seconds on medium-high speed. We can use this time to ask ourselves if European recipes alter their times and temperatures to have nice round numbers, as 163 degrees might get rounded up to 165 degrees Celsius, or 438 Kelvin if you are feeling particularly scientific. Once we are done adding in our vanilla egg mixture, we will use the magic of editing to remove our bowl from the mixing stand and place upon the table. We will add in the flour, sifting it over the batter in stages. Sifting the flour will better disperse it when adding it to the batter, allowing for better mixing. We will then gently fold the batter over the flour after each addition in lieu of using a mixer with a paddle. The reason for this is that we do not have a leavening agent in this recipe, such as baking powder or baking soda. The lack of a leavening agent means that some of the rise in the cake will come from beating air into the batter as we added in our vanilla egg mixture. Some of the rise will also come from properly creaming the butter in the beginning of this recipe. As such, we need to be gentle so as to not get rid of the air that we beat into the mixture. Lastly comes time to add in our batter to our pre-greased loaf pan and try to make sure that the batter is evenly distributed in the pan. Once the batter is satisfactorily smoothed and spread, we will add this to the oven positioned in the middle rack for an hour to start out. Now, one important lesson we learned in a previous video is that of ovens and their varying temperatures. So because of this, we're going to want to start our cake out for an hour in the oven and then take it out and insert a toothpick into it to see if the toothpick comes out clean. If it doesn't come out clean, we'll put it back in the oven. I recommend about 5-minute intervals for it until it comes out clean. Once it does, you'll rest it on a wire rack for about 15 minutes, and after 15 minutes, you'll remove it from the loaf pan and let it sit until it cools, usually about an hour or so. One important lesson to remember when you are creating a STEM-based baking YouTube show is to remember your camera. In this instance, my memory card ran out because I forgot to hit stop, and I lost some footage of cutting of the cake and how tender it is, which means you will have to judge based on these pictures. As you can see, the cake has a nice domed shape and is more dense than a typical sponge cake. It will have a nice yellow color to it, as well as a good rise in the middle. It should be symmetric. This asymmetry can be attributed to a poor distribution of batter when it initially went into the pan. The surface on the top will have a crack in it as well, where the peak rise occurs. Thank you for watching, everyone. Next week we're going to take a look at combining two different recipes here, using brownies and cookies to create a dessert called a brookie, and we'll learn a little bit about layering our desserts as well as time and temperature of cooking.